Hi everyone, my name's Emma.J and I'm a digital marketing specialist at Tourism and Events Queensland. It is getting pretty late in the afternoon, so to start off today I just want everyone to stand up. So where you are in your chair, if you can just stand up for a second, and I'll get you to look under your desk, under the tables that are in front of you. You're looking for a white envelope, so take a stretch while you're standing up. I know it's been a long afternoon, so and whoever finds the envelope, let me know. Put your hand up. Anyone found it yet? If there's spare spots next to you, maybe check next door. You got it? Here we go. Congratulations. You've just been surprised and delighted. So I'll talk more about that later on. And you can come see me after the presentation. Just meet me beside the stage. Thanks for getting involved with that one, everyone. So to kick off and to get you all inspired for this presentation, I just wanted to show you a quick video. This video is a bit of an overview on our It's Live events program. I'll just click play. Hope you enjoy. So as the video says, thank you, you can see Australia's best live events in Australia's best destinations in Queensland. So from the video, as you can see, we have an amazing calendar of events in Queensland. When TQ, or Tourism Queensland, merged with EQ, Events Queensland, about 2 years ago now, we really needed a campaign to capture what this merger meant. From there, that's where It's Live was born. And It's Live fits with social media so well. It's brought us an exciting opportunity to work with event partners like never before and engage with event goers in the social space. To put this into perspective, just take a look at how many people are in this shot alone. This is from the Brisbane International Tennis and its Pat Rafter Arena. Our question was, how many people were actively talking about this particular event online? And imagine if we could get all of those people using our hashtag and telling the Queensland story for us. So where did we start? We started doing some research. What were events already doing in the social space? Here's some examples of content shared on Instagram around some particular events. This is top quality content, and these conversations were already happening organically in social media. We just needed to see how we could leverage that. Again, through our research, we found two key insights. The opportunity for us as a destination, given our dual focus as a tourism and events state authority. We needed to get more people talking around events, but more importantly, we needed them talking about the event and the destination. So we went out in search of what was best practice, what was already happening out there. Here's an example of a world-class event that's leveraging social media really, really well, the Calgary Stampede. With this event alone, they had over 30,000 photos shared on Instagram, reaching over 1 million people. That's the opportunity, and that was just Instagram. So how did they get these results? From our research, we found that they were really engaging with their audiences. They were having those building those one-to-one relationships through conversation. Our opportunity as a destination was to help our events build this kind of activity, so hopefully they could run with this themselves and leverage conversation from a destination marketing perspective. And lucky for us, our It's Live platform and social media go hand in hand. Social media is in the moment, so in essence, it's live. So the idea of promoting Queensland events was made for social media. The opportunity is for us to use events to promote the destination, and the best way to do this is in social media. We need to ensure that event conversation is about Queensland. This process is what we thought through to leverage the opportunity in social. The experiences that people have in Queensland are what affect them. Those experiences turn into stories. Those stories are shared by many storytellers, so they could include event-goers, event participants, or even the celebrities that attend those events. Those stories are then told both on and offline, so through word of mouth or through social media. It's the consumer stories in the online channels that will ultimately reach our target audience, and that is what promotes Queensland. So where did we start? We worked through selecting around 12 events to work with in the past 10 months. There was a variety of events that we chose for various reasons. So we chose different genres and different time periods because we wanted to test this new program. We worked with the likes of the Brisbane International and the AFC Asia Cup, iconic events like the Julia Creek Dirt and Dust Festival, festivals like the Woodford Folk Festival and CMC Rocks, and even participation sports, so the Gold Coast Airport Marathon and Cairns Airport Adventure Festival. This mix gave us a good sample and a good variety to gather learnings through the year. So here's our plan, and it was pretty simple. Our objective was to start conversation, to get listening in those conversations and jump into any opportunities to leverage those conversations, and we wanted to encourage content sharing. Secretly, we were on the lookout to create even more conversations with opportunities to surprise a few passionate event content sharers too. So based on that, what were our targets? What were we trying to achieve? Firstly, we wanted an increase in the usage of hashtag #ThisIsQueensland around events. We wanted to increase the reach of the event's message, and we wanted to work with the engagement with the audiences around events. All importantly, we wanted to measure the success of the activity and set benchmarks for the year ahead. I'll now take you through our pre, during, and post-event process just to give you an overview of what we've actually gone through with each event. Pre-event, in the lead up to an event, we like to listen and engage with event goers and influencers. From about 3 weeks out, that's the optimal time frame we're working with, we schedule Facebook posts and tweets and boost these to a targeted audience to generate conversation. What we were finding in Facebook in particular was people were just jumping in, tagging their friends, going, "Oh, are you going to this event this year?" Or, "Oh, I really wish I was going, but I haven't been able to get tickets." And those kind of conversations were our opportunity to jump in and touch base with those people. And sometimes we were able to surprise a few with free event tickets, for example, as part of our surprise and delight, which was really awesome. Another way to generate this conversation was with regards to the pre-event Insta-Meet that were organised by some of the events themselves. An example here, I've got it on screen at the moment, is with regards to the Noosa International Food and Wine Festival. They organised their own pre-event Insta-Meet, which we were able to work with them on. They had over 30 event attendees attend that particular Insta-Meet, and that was a great opportunity for pre-event listening and conversation around this particular event. We were also able to jump into their reminder post on their social channel and remind attendees to use the hashtag #ThisIsQueensland as well at the Insta-Meet. The hashtag was also mentioned as part of the pre-event Insta-Meet. It's just another avenue that we were able to spread the word about our hashtag #ThisIsQueensland. Here's an example of a pre-event conversation where consumers were talking to each other about the events they're travelling to. This is an example that I wanted to provide, as we haven't been pushy or all we're trying to do is generate that conversation and keep Queensland top of mind. So all we've said here is "have a great first day, guys," in response to what these two consumers were saying. So during an event, that's where the most content is generated. If there's beautiful things to take photos of, shareable moments, or interesting things to take photos of, maybe like a rhinoceros on a surfboard, that's what people will look to take photos of. What I've got on screen at the moment is the Noosa Festival of Surfing, and that's their dog surfing event. This provided so much content coming through on our channels that we were able to jump in and generate more conversation and encourage more content sharing around this particular event. The screen grab that I've got on screen is a back-end system called Crowdriff. So essentially, we could approve images in Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram that were hashtag #ThisIsQueensland, specific to this event, pull them through to this platform, and essentially measure how many photos during the event were shared with our hashtag. We also monitor conversations during an event, so we use things like Hootsuite, Twitter, and Iconosquare to do that. In Hootsuite, we'd set up streams with our hashtag, the event hashtag, and maybe the event name, for example, to start with. Then those streams are tweaked along the way, pending the direction of conversations around the event. We also found with events that it was really important to set up a location stream, so the location of the particular event. Because what we were finding is a lot of people were checking into that particular event or tagging themselves in that particular location. And it was an opportunity for us to jump into request the use of hashtag This Is Queensland on really cool content that we may otherwise have missed. Finally, during an event, it's really important we also share our favourite curated imagery to thank contributors and encourage further sharing. This was really important too, to build those one-on-one relationships. On top of listening and engaging at events, we look to seek out influencers and event ambassadors. These guys are really important because they're the ones who can assist in telling that event story to a relevant audience for you. Here's an example on screen of the Noosa International Food and Wine Festival, how we had a conversation and essentially worked with the Delicious magazine. From the beginning of the Noosa Food and Wine Festival event, Delicious magazine were putting up really great content. So we just jumped in and asked the question, hey guys, do you mind utilising hashtag This Is Queensland in your posts? They obliged and ended up sharing 22 top quality images of the Noosa International Food and Wine Festival event with our hashtag This Is Queensland. And they ended up being one of our top contributors for this particular event. So identifying and working with quality Instagrammers like this is really important because they can reach those audiences that you may otherwise not have been able to speak with. It's about building those one-to-one relationships with these guys, as when these events come around again, there is an opportunity to tap into these established relationships in future. Following an event, so after the event's been and gone, we look to share our favourite content on our channels. It's always nice to thank contributors and encourage future sharing and essentially just close that loop. But don't forget about the hashtag latergrams. Take note of your contributors and keep an eye on them and what they're sharing post the event. It may be even weeks later that they're sharing top quality content that you may be able to utilise in years to come. And always encourage that future sharing. So to summarise what I've gone through just now, here's a bit of a visual of the process. So we start with these event stories, and they essentially lead into conversations. It's from there that we monitor and listen to those conversations to look for opportunities to jump in and engage with the audience and have those, start those conversations to generate more request generation of more content. Engaging is really important here. Also, finally, what we do is curate and store the content for future use. So future use may include Facebook albums or blog posts, for example, just to give that wrap-up of the event. So through our activities, we aim to help people imagine themselves at the event by bringing the event experience to life beforehand through social media. I'll now just touch on one of the events that we worked with more specifically, just to delve a little bit deeper into how we worked with this particular event. So one of the events that we worked with was the Brisbane International Tennis. When we work with our events, it's always a partnership. So we have an initial meeting and we brief each other on each other's objectives. It's how can we help each other? So we'll look to assist in amplifying their messaging through our channels and vice versa. One of the top things that we do bring up in this conversation is approved imagery for inclusion in the editorial calendar. Because we always want to have an image with each of the posts or tweets that we're doing, because that tends to get more engagement, and that was one of our targets, was engagement. Pardon me. Brisbane International, a surprise was also thrown into the mix for us. We got to pre-write some content for Roger Federer. Yep, Roger Federer himself. Here's some examples of what we did with Roger and the social conversations we had with him. He even used our hashtag This Is Queensland in his own content created around the event. So we pre-wrote 2 tweets and 2 Facebook posts for him. One of those was even picked up by a local news source. And this was great, given the project objectives, but it also worked for what we at TEQ are trying to achieve in aligning the events and the destination messaging. And this was all done through one of our event ambassadors. So at the start of my presentation, I gave away a surprise. It's honestly the best feeling to surprise someone, especially when it's aligned to their interests. The Queensland Surprise and Delight program was presented last year by my colleague Kayla at SoMeT, and we've been running it at TEQ for the past couple of years. Just to give you a summary of what Surprise and Delight is, it's part of our listening and engaging via social media around our hashtag #ThisIsQueensland. We look out for advocates and opportunities to give away surprises to these people. The idea is that when you truly surprise someone, especially if it aligns with their wants or something they're passionate about, that equals even more content, stories, and excitement around the event. The example I've got on screen here is with regards to the Brisbane International Tennis. We were able to surprise @Jar Green via social media with something that aligned to his passion. So essentially, Jar Green, his name was Jared, posted on social media that he took a photo of his cap here, which is a Roger Federer branded cap, and it was signed by another tennis player. He was really passionate and posted a whole heap of photos during the event, and essentially we were able to jump into a conversation with him on social and surprise him with a Roger Federer branded hat signed by Roger Federer. He went crazy. He was so excited and over the moon and sent us numerous tweets, Facebook posts. He posted on Instagram about it and even sent an email to our office to say thanks. He was just absolutely over the moon, which was really great, and that's what we were trying to achieve, those stories that are generated through social. So essentially, after each event, we summarise our learnings, event to event, but also at the end. It's important to chat through these learnings so we can incorporate them along the way, but also get set for our 15-16 planning. When we're talking about our learnings, we're talking about what worked well, what didn't work so well, and what could we do better next time. So in terms of what worked well, that was festival content, the promotion of #ThisIsQueensland at events, and engaging with event ambassadors. When I say festival content, I'm referring to the likes of the Woodford Folk Festival. I've put a variety of images up on the screen here. These events happen over several days, and there's so many opportunities to take photos of the cool content. There was a variety of images coming through, which was great content and great opportunity for us to jump in and have those one-to-one conversations. Number 2 I mentioned was the promotion of #ThisIsQueensland at events. An example of this was when CMC Rocks, they created their own little laminated A4 signs. It had their hashtag CMC Rocks and it had #ThisIsQueensland. We feel that the content that came rolling in from that event, we feel came from that signage because our hashtag was front and centre and it was easy, but people didn't actually even need to remember it. It was right there in front of them. And finally, engaging with event ambassadors. So for example, Roger Federer, like I mentioned earlier, or for example, Tim Cahill with AFC, and there were other ambassadors along the way that we'd tagged into our Facebook posts and tweets. They would essentially oblige and retweet those for us, and that would help increase the reach of our messaging to a large and a relevant audience. So yes, as with anything, there are lots of learning. So some things that didn't work particularly well with our approach on this round included things like shorter events. An example I have is the NRL. There just wasn't as much opportunity for a variety of content due to the event's short duration. Also, if you think about it, when you go to watch a stadium event, you're sitting down in the same seat for the whole time, so that's essentially your opportunity to create content. One thing we were thinking with how we could work with these shorter type events in future would maybe to work with a local Instagrammer and get them maybe behind the scenes access to generate some different angles and different content around that particular event. Another thing that also didn't work as well this time around was our one-size-fits-all approach. This was our first iteration of our It's Live social listening program, so we went with this one-size-fits-all approach in terms of the number of social posts and the channels that we used. We found this not to be the most appropriate. For example, when we worked with the Magic Millions, they didn't actually have a consumer-facing Twitter channel, but the consumer content was more focused on Instagram and Facebook around that particular event. and it would have been better for us to focus our efforts there for that particular event. So yes, there were lots of learnings along the way, but there is an awful lot of evidence that what we're doing is working really well, engaging directly with a number of people to influence their networks to visit Queensland and attend our events. So just to give you an idea of the scale of what we're working with, the results on screen here are from one post about one event, the Woodford Folk Festival. This Facebook post alone got over 5,000 likes, over 5,000 comments, and over 500 people shared it. Here's one example of our tweets that had 67 retweets, which resulted in over 2 million impressions through the retweets from the accounts tagged in. So we tagged in people like Tim Cahill, the Asia Cup, which was the actual event, and the Socceroos, all of which retweeted our tweets, and we were able to get that reach. So with 12 events across 10 months, we posted multiple times for each event, roughly 50 Facebook posts and over 100 tweets, not to mention the retweets and conversations had within this. So the exposure, as you can imagine, really adds up. For Noosa Food and Wine Festival alone, over 450 photos were shared over just this one event. At this event, there was media, TV personalities, food bloggers, and these are the types of people we want to become our ambassadors for events in the future. Our approach is long-term and it's ongoing. Year 1 is essentially what I've covered today, and Year 2, we plan to expand the program based on learnings and leverage that curated content. So to summarise, pre-event, we created that fear of missing out to encourage people to come to events next year. We've engaged with people from about 3 weeks out from each event, and we've incorporated our surprise and delight, sometimes with money can't buy experiences, to generate those stories and conversations. During an event, that's where the main conversation happens. That's where we needed to get the Queensland conversation happening too. We engage with people during an event, talking about the event, and encourage them to share their content and experience. Post-event, we then look to promote the best content through our channels. So what are we doing next year? Obviously, we want to do it better. We want to increase engagement. We want to encourage event participation through hashtag usage and signage, etc. We want to keep in touch with those influencers and ambassadors we know, but we also want to grow on this. And we want to leverage that curated content. Today, I just want to leave you with 2 tips. The first is always be thinking of content efficiencies. I think this was brought up a bit earlier. From a promotional perspective, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation with events, as the content doesn't really exist until after the event has been and gone, and by then it's just a bit too late. So always be thinking, what are you doing this year that you can leverage next year? Always be thinking content efficiencies for future event promotion. The second tip, I think we all know this, but it's really important to highlight. One-to-one conversation to build relationships via social media is really important. And as part of this project, it was important to start building one-to-one relationships with passionate event-goers who love to share their awesome imagery with us. Just another simple tip with this one, keep note of your event advocates for future reference along with any key learnings you have, so these are easily on hand for future activity. So that's my presentation, Listen, Engage, Curate, Repeat, Social Listening in the World of Events.
Thank you, Emma, for sharing that. What a wonderful way to create awesome content.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah. One of the questions that I had is, was it always easy to work with the events and the parties? Did they always understand what you're aiming at?
Not all of the time. So each event is different, and like some events will have their own digital team, so they'll understand straight away what we're trying to achieve. But there'll be other smaller events, for example, that we've worked with that may not have a digital professional in their team, so they really need to be taught right from the beginning, what are we trying to achieve and what is the purpose of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always different, but it's exciting.
And what has been their feedback on this first year?
We've had absolutely amazing feedback from the events. Some of the events are actually going to take the program and run it themselves next time, just because they've reaped the benefits of it and they can see the benefits of running it themselves. So that's been really positive. And every time we wrap up an event, we'll always present them with their results. So having that conversation and taking them through, we'll take them through the learnings honestly. So for example, the Magic Millions learning that I mentioned earlier, we've mentioned that to those guys, and they were so thankful because it was something that was really insightful for them and how they use that particular channel.
Yeah. Perfect. Any questions from the audience? Not at this point. There may be a little bit a question that I have. Oh, there is a question. Perfect.
So John King from Brisbane Marketing.
Hey, John.
So in the way of events, there's people in the room who may not know how many Facebook posts should I do and what type of engagement should I expect?
Around like the event posts that we're doing.
Yep.
So in terms of, I can only reflect on what we've done, but what we found is in the lead up to events, it's from about 3 weeks out that we're trying to start conversations online. So as you can imagine, when you yourself may buy tickets to an event, when would you go like and put something on social media? Probably when the tickets arrive, like when you've purchased them, which may be months out, and it may just be a one-off post. But in terms of the excitement about the event coming up, we thought that an optimal time was about 3 weeks out to start having those conversations. So that's when we started posting. In terms of what we actually did, so we did 3 Facebook posts, 1 per week in the lead up to the event. They were posted, some on our wall, some were unpublished posts, but targeted to a specific audience with money behind it. And then with regards to Twitter, we did 3 tweets per week in the 3 weeks lead up, so 9 tweets in the lead up to the event. Being a different platform and it moving so fast, that's why we had more tweets than Facebook posts. But we found that they, like once you targeted them to a particular audience, that's when those conversations started happening. And it was the posts that were closer to the event, so maybe the 1 week out posts that we were doing, that would generate the most engagement, because naturally that's when people are the most excited about the event coming up and they want to tell that story and kind of, I guess, make their friends jealous that they're going or something.
Any more questions from the audience? We should give you a microphone, keep it.
Thanks, guys. Great presentation, Emma. Seriously cool, surprise and delight stuff, particularly that Federer guy.
Thanks,
it's
I know,
amazing.
how awesome. We were so
amazing.
excited.
Amazing. I just had a question about international versus domestic, actually. With your kind of, obviously you're targeting people as they're talking about the event and that kind of thing. Are you finding that's more of a domestic audience? And if so, is it like interstate or is it Queensland locals? Or are you finding that there's some international in the mix? How does that kind of work?
I think from what we've seen, I don't know what the actual breakdown is of international versus domestic, but based on the conversations we've been having, like we're talking about international events, so the Brisbane International did attract internationals coming over to the actual event itself, but I think it's when they're here and they'd actually start having those conversations once they're actually in Queensland or experiencing the event. But yeah, I don't know the actual breakdown, I'm sorry. Yes.
Any more questions? So I have a question. So how important is the actual events calendar itself? You've mainly talked about engagement with the on social media, but are you focusing on getting more people to use the events calendar that you've built?
Yeah, that's one of our project objectives, is to get people using that events calendar to come and check back what's happening in Queensland. And we always want to tie back to that It's Live program where possible. Yeah. With this particular program, we can only focus on a certain number of events due to resourcing. Yeah. But at the same time, if we're working with particular events this year that may take the program on themselves next year, hopefully it'll just get that roll-on effect and it'll just keep growing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it possible or is the events calendar actually open to any event that's in Queensland?
I'm not sure of our process of actually selecting the events for that, because the marketing team kind of take care of that. I'm in the digital team. I put that onto the website for everyone to be able to find it. But yeah, I think in terms of the events that are on there, it provides a really good variety of what's happening in Queensland. It's obviously not everything, because an event could, like, you can imagine how many events are in Queensland at
Yes.
any one time, let alone within a calendar year. So yeah, we just try and highlight the ones that we can, and we try and provide a really good variety in the mix that's all over Queensland. So
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Any last questions? All the way in the back.
Hi, I didn't quite catch what platform you use to aggregate your content. Just a question like, why did you choose that platform?
so the platform that we use, Destination Think actually manage this for us, and they use a program called Crowdriff to essentially approve imagery into the back-end system of Crowdriff, and that gives us an overview of the images that have been specifically tagged, hashtag This Is Queensland, around a particular event. It is a manual process to approve those images and pull them through, but Destination Think are managing that for us.
Hi Emma, fantastic presentation, and I'm actually from Townsville, so having a Queensland events campaign like this has been fantastic for our destination, and I want to congratulate Tourism and Events Queensland on that. My question is probably one that my operators would ask, and that is how much emphasis is actually placed on, through the campaign, promoting pre and post touring, and was there any impact on, or did you see any increase in length of stay through focusing on an events campaign?
That wasn't something that we actually measured for this particular iteration, I guess, of this campaign. It was more just the 3 targets that I mentioned there. But where possible, in our own content that we do through the Queensland channel, when we know events are coming up, we'll always look for those opportunities to incorporate those things to see and do messages around events, and encourage people to make the most of their time around a particular event. So yes, they may be going to one game at the Brisbane International, for example, but then what else can they do at night? Like, where can they dine, or where can they go out and experience other things? So we do encourage that conversation, but it may not be part of this particular program, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question?
I guess it does.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Emma, for your presentation.
No
Thank
worries,
you.
Thank you. That was great.